What's up, everybody? Robert here. See, Robert Ferretti. This is what I would look like with the slick back hair and the outfit if I ended up going and working on Wall Street one day. Glad I didn't. My job is much more fun, and I'm surrounded by really cool cars. I just don't really own them like I would if I worked on Wall Street. So when I get my hair done, I'm gonna chop it down a little shorter, and this just looked appropriate because I could be Robert from M&A. Yeah, right? Like mergers and acquisitions. What is mergers and acquisitions? Well, that's a perfect segue into today's video, which is about the Hertz Corporation, which is, and I'm going to be full disclosure here, I bought stock in Hertz. That doesn't mean anything because I suck at picking stocks. But I bought stock in Hertz because it went from like $80 a share down to about $3, right? I think today it's like $2.70 a share. For me, it's a gamble. It could go back up to 15, 20, 60, or it could go down to 36 cents a share. I have no idea. Don't use that as a stock tip, but I do own shares in Hertz, which is ironic because at one point in time, there was something called Hertz Dream Cars, and that's what we're going to talk about because Hertz Dream Cars was Hertz approaching, and at the time it was Gotham Dream Cars. They approached us, and there's something that the M&A department, mergers and acquisitions, will go and either merge companies together, so one company merges with another, or acquisitions where one company will buy the other. And Hertz came to us at one point in time, same like NDA, it's expired, long expired now because Hertz Dream Cars has been around for a while, and I think they got bigger issues right now than dealing with me. But they came to us and they wanted to acquire, under the pretense of wanting to acquire our company. Hey, we're interested in buying your company and branding it as Hertz and all this. So we had meetings at Hertz. We went back and forth. You signed an NDA. And it's sort of like, show us what you got. Like, we're trying to value you, show us what you have. And at the end, they sort of like, we went in a different direction. It was only after like a year or two later that I found out that, or maybe 6 months, I don't remember the timetable, but they did this to a bunch of people. They did this, like, there's a bunch of like large car rental companies. They're not going to waste their time going and talking to small car rental companies, but Midway, Beverly Hills Rent-A-Car, Black and White Rent-A-Car, Gotham Dream Cars. Those are all the big players in the exotic car rental space. And even Carefree Lifestyles out of Miami at the time. They came in. They did the same process with everybody, right? They did the non-disclosure, we want to buy you. Everyone's like, all right, cool, we're getting bought by Hertz, that's awesome. And then Hertz decided to have everyone sort of lift up their skirt, show them everything they got, and what happens? Hertz takes all this information, makes their own division, now that they've seen what everybody else has, and they did nothing with any company. That's a dirty move. Like that's one of those things that, and everyone's under NDA. They can't talk to a company and say like, hey, by the way, is Hertz talking to you? No, is Hertz talking to you? And that's where they were able to get the information and the operating structures and financials of all of these different big players in the United States and launch Hertz Dream Cars. That was pretty dirty, but it's also now pretty ironic that they're sort of flirting with bankruptcy, and depending on what news story you read which day, their stock is definitely down. They definitely have a ton of debt, and they're flirting with bankruptcy. And a big investor in the company, I think it was like 25% of the company, is Carl Icahn. I think he just increased his stake today. Today is Friday, the 15th of May. And again, I'm not telling you to go out and buy Hertz stock. I gambled on it because it's a gamble. Like, I think there's times in your life when you can look back and be like, oh, wow, this stock, if you look at this low point here, I think if they go into bankruptcy, it's not even necessarily a death sentence for it's not like your stocks are worth nothing, right? In my head, I could be wrong. Again, I didn't go to Wall Street. Robert, I look like Robert, but I'm Rob. And I did not take bankruptcy public company class, so I can't tell you if the stock is worthless, but I don't think it is. I think the stock will maybe be devalued. Maybe that'll be good for the company. They'll restructure the debt. I look at Hertz as the largest global car rental brand there is, right? It's a terrible time to be renting cars globally. 560,000 cars they have right now. Think about that. Every time you're like, oh, yeah. And that sucks. They canceled their orders for manufacturers. That kills everybody. But you don't even realize how many cars out there are probably rental cars that end up on the market that you have no idea. Like half the used car market. Now, a lot of it, like car rental companies can buy cars less than they'll sell them to even dealerships. Like a dealership, you're retail, you're up here, dealership buys here. Rental companies, they buy here. So they buy below this. Then they have a holding period because they're in the business of renting the cars. So that they don't cannibalize the dealer market, these dealers here are the rental car companies buy here, but they have to keep it for 6 months. So the value of the car is going to go down, and it sort of meets in the middle here. So when they dump the car on the secondary market, then it doesn't really hurt the dealerships as much. Now, you have to look at how this is all playing out, right? They can buy a car, and this is why you always get like a new car when you go to a Hertz or like Avis or any of these companies. You generally get like a car with, oh wow, I'm the first person to even drive this car, because they buy so many of them. The problem is when the market falls below that, then they're really screwed. Now they're not buying the hundreds of thousands of cars that they buy every year from the manufacturers, which is great for the manufacturers. And they're now unable to sell them because the value is lower, so they can't even get rid of them because they'll destroy the secondary market. So this whole Hertz thing is a really big deal. Do I think they're going to go out of business? Absolutely not. Hertz will be around. It'll be a name in 20 years. It'll be a name in 5 years. That's the stock play for me now, because like, look, if Hertz stock is $2 a share, $2.50, what I think it's like $2.70 a share is where it closed today. I bought it at $2.76, right? So if it goes down to $2, if it rides, I'm gonna long play this. And like, if it's up at $20 a share, that's 10x your money. If it's back up to its former glory in 10 years, $80 a share. Imagine having your money, even if you put $1,000 in, 1,000 becomes 40,000. That's a lot. So again, I don't know how to disclaimer this even more so. Don't go and run and put money in Hertz and then say, Rob, you told me to put money in Hertz. I'm telling you why I put money into the Hertz stock. And that reminded me of the story as to why Hertz Dream Cars exists and how they sort of snake their way into creating the Dream Cars line by essentially taking everybody else's business and trying to create this perfect business of their own. And I don't know. They've got a lot of overhead. The Dream Cars business is not what put them into bankruptcy or financial ruin. Doesn't really impact the boutique car rental companies like us. Yes, there's a couple of people that would now, there's other outlets. You can go to Hertz. You can use your like maybe membership points through Hertz to rent a Ferrari instead of potentially going to an exotic boutique company like Beverly Hills, Black and White, Midway, Gotham, or whatever. And when you look at it that way, it's not really a big deal that they did what they did, but it was a dirty move. Like if you want to get into a segment, you get into a segment. You hire consultants, you do this, you do that. You're coming in and talking to people under the guise of purchasing them. And yes, well, we didn't decide to purchase any of them. None of them were right for us. We'll just start our own with all this information they gave us. That was sort of, it was deceptive in my mind. But we'll see what happens. Again, I think Hertz is going to be around for a long time. Whatever happens is going to be, I look at it as a buying opportunity, but, you know, if they go out of business, they go out of business. I think somebody else, Avis, whatever other competing companies would likely sop them up. There's infrastructure there. There's brand recognition. There's a whole bunch of stuff that I think the brand of Hertz, no matter whether they go into bankruptcy, come out of bankruptcy, and bankruptcy isn't like liquidate everything. Bankruptcy protection allows them to restructure their credit, or their debt, I'm sorry. And that is not necessarily a death sentence for a company. There's Chapter 7, Chapter 11. We're not going to get into all of that because it's irrelevant. But right now, the irony of everything is Hertz came to buy me, and I guess I could have bought them back then. I would have lost a lot of money if I did. But now I'm buying Hertz and hopefully making some money off them, and time will tell. Robert Ferretti. Thank you for watching. See you next time. So you guys are familiar with my other company, Adventure Drives, right? Well, this year we've got 2 trips coming up. One, which is starting in Seattle and ending in Jackson Hole in July. That's going up through the Canadian Rockies, coming down through Banff, Yellowstone, Glacier National Park, and Grand Teton National Park. It's going to be phenomenal. Also, we're going to be going to Scotland in October. We're going to be doing Scotch distilleries, playing golf at St. Andrews if you want to do that, walking around, seeing lakes, waterfalls, driving the North Coast. It's going to be an amazing trip. Prices start as low as $2,500 per person for the shorter trip in Scotland, about double that for the longer trip in July. If you're interested in going, check out the link in the description.